And we're live! Well, if you're watching this on YouTube and other places, we're not live, but we are streaming in 5 places right now, 2 or 3, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're streaming. But all of this information is going to be reposted with my guest information, etc. Post in probably about 48 hours. Welcome, welcome. Happy Friday to everybody. If we haven't met, I am Kat Trelinos, the president and visionary of Ta-Da by Kat Next Level Staging and Design. And my guest today, she is an alumni. You can watch a previous episode on our channel from last year talking about tips in real estate law, which she specializes in. She is an attorney, a mom of 2 girls, and an entrepreneur extraordinaire woman who I am just happy to have back and talk today about some business tips, pivoting, which is really, before the show we were talking about that. Pivoting is still happening, beyond the COVID pandemic. If you are in any type of stage in your business or really just life, and she's going to share some tips on that. Trademark versus copyright, which I'm kind of interested in, being a soon-to-be author. Well, author again. Without further ado, Eleanor, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning. Happy Friday to those who are watching live. I hope everyone's having absolutely wonderful 2023 as we approach the halfway mark to the year.
Unbelievable.
I know, it goes by so fast. I tell my staff at every staff meeting, like, it's coming. And I really had a great time earlier this year reading a book called The 90-Day Year. And it really just makes you think about time and how easy it is to procrastinate or to put things off.
90-Day Year. Okay,
90-Day Year. It's a very powerful book, and it has worksheets and things to go along with it. But it's about really just condensing how you think about time and really using that condensation to get the most out of the time, to live purposefully every day.
You and I talked before the show, Eleanor, and I really feel like we're on the same page there in terms of intention. So if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur, business owner, about to be a business owner, thinking about being a business owner, some of the things you shared with me is, just because you've been an attorney for 10 years, it doesn't mean you have to be just that for 10 years, or maybe be something different, or, so how do you navigate through that? So for so many people, I think, we at some time just get in that groove of, this is what I do, this is what I know well, this is how I can serve, and we kind of don't look out and become as intentional and really as broad as maybe our talents and aspirations and creativity can take us. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree. But I think that what we learned, or what lessons there are in COVID, yes, there was a lot of disaster and pivoting that was forced. But from that, people had to face the fear that came with wanting that certainty in their lives. Lots of people, we choose a path and we figure, well, this is where I've made progress, this is where I've made an impact, and this is where I have to stay. And sometimes when you look at a career 20 years later, you get out of college, you start a career 20 years later, that may not be your passion, that may not set your heart on fire, that may not get you moving every morning. You do it because you have responsibilities and kids and life, and you want to have a certain level of success. But COVID did teach us that, pivoting won't kill you, right? We think, the worst thing that could happen is that I have to start from scratch. And then you get to scratch and you're realizing, if you're walking your purpose, if you feel fulfilled, if you are happy and smiling every day, that is the goal, not just making money, not just, having a certain level of success, feeling internally like you feel good. And so for a lot of people, when they got laid off or there's a lot of dead time, and during COVID, you had to just face yourself and be able to look in the mirror and say, do I like where I am now? And if the answer is no, then it's important to remember that despite the age, I went to law school as a non-traditional student in the middle of a 10-year career, right? You don't have to do anything forever. And you just have to, be brave enough to begin to take the first steps. I'm not saying quit your job and quit your life and sell everything and go live in Cambodia. But you can start taking steps towards a life that does give you that purpose and that fulfillment.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned, what sets you on fire, through the years of my business. I've had, folks on our team that, it's just like one entity of the business just didn't light them up. It's fine. We'll find what, but you love this part. Okay. Well, why assume everybody loves this part? You love this part. Let's do something that, that, like you said, that lights you up, that sets you on fire.
Yeah.
And it does take, I think, when you're by yourself, there can be that forced reflection, or there can be that intentional reflection that you take time, even if it's 10 minutes in the morning, or if it's while you're driving. That, it doesn't have to be you're sitting like a monk, for an hour a day meditating or getting quiet, but just finding time to be quiet so that you can reflect on where you've been, and maybe where you want to go. Because if there's one thing I've learned in all the years I've lived on this planet is, and my husband and I reflect on this all the time, the various valleys and different entities and businesses, is that each one is a stepping stone to something bigger, greater, different. It's not that you're throwing that away.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine if you stopped being an attorney tomorrow, everything that you learn, not only in school, but in a decade of practice, I can tell you that knowledge, that wisdom, that magic, that creativity is going to go with you in whatever you do.
Yeah, you still, you have a resume you present to other people, but you have your own internal resume skill builder kind of assessment. And often we judge ourselves so much on what other people think, and your rank and your level and how your boss did your last review. But what about your own review of yourself and your life? And are you happy?
That
Should you pivot? Or and so yeah, you do your own. Take that, instead of, if you have a review from your job, take it and apply it to yourself. What's important to me? How am I prioritizing that? Being my family, being myself, being my self-care. Because I believe too many of us have believed the story that, okay, well, the part where I take care of myself happens after I do whatever, fill in the blank, raise my kids, get to a certain level of success, retire. And why is that something that we should wait for?
Right. Or I'll be happy when I make 6 figures, I lose 25 pounds, I have a brand new car. Number one, again, those are all surface, exterior things that other people may judge you. But are you really judging yourself? Does that really make you happy? The big car, the big house, being skinny for other than being healthy? Probably not. So you really hit the nail on the head, Eleanor, in terms of, and I'm trying to teach my, grandchildren this, that, don't look to others, especially when we get to this, tween age. Don't look to others for approval. And that's a constant battle, not just for tweeners, but they're more susceptible with the hormones, et cetera, but adults. I think I've quoted Tony Robbins before. I loved his definition of success. And he described it as doing what you want, when you want, with whoever you want.
I would definitely agree.
I love it. Now, yes, is it easier for him because he's a bazillion here? Well, yeah, but you can't, negate the fact that he gained some enlightenment along the way. And I feel confident that if he was stripped of all of those bazillion, that he would find success, because he more than others knows that the stuff is not the success.
Right.
Yeah. It's having that freedom and doing what lights you up, so that you can give your light back.
And just remembering that life isn't in the past or the present, isn't in the past or the future. It's not, okay, one day I'll do this and that gives you joy, or I had happiness at this time. It's how are you finding it right now in this very moment? How are you finding
now?
Right now.
I think you must have read the same books I've read.
I've read a lot of books.
Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
The Power of Now is a great one.
I mean, I love his stuff, and it's hard for us to grasp, let alone young people to grasp. But it is the only thing that is real, is this moment, this now. It's like.
It does. It's mind blowing.
It is. It's mind blowing. But if we realize that power, and the power, someone I responded to someone, I think it was on Instagram, in terms of our feelings, how powerful they are. Well, what preempts our feelings is our thoughts. So our thoughts create our feelings, create our action,
Mm-hmm.
and creates our life. So as Wayne Dyer, and I know you know him too, God bless his soul, change your thoughts, change your life. And if people just realized how powerful their thoughts are, they would be mind blown.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of step one to pivoting, right?
Yep.
Taking that first step into the unknown. Like, I'm going to drop all these expectations. Maybe it's what I thought my parents taught me, is what society has taught me, what my job has taught me, and just begin to trust yourself and what you think and how you feel and what you like.
Yes.
And not to say that that's a path to complete happiness, but it's a much faster path to peace.
It is. It is. And I think we've all, to some degree, depending on what generational time frame you grew up in, we were most influenced by, the decision makers, our parents, the teachers, society, conformity. Conformity was the thing, and it's unlearning. I think it's unlearning for many of us, and hopefully for young people, having enlightened young parents such as you to teach them, to think for themselves, to navigate for themselves, to be creative, to make choices for themselves, which, in my generation, that wasn't, you were to be seen and not heard, and you did what you were told. It was pretty linear.
Yeah. And life can be whatever you want it to be, right? So it's not it's a relearning, but it's also just a reevaluation of seeing why people gave you that advice in a new light. It's like when you're a parent, becoming a parent, you better understand, like, oh, that's why they told me that, or that's what they were trying to protect me from. So in their experience, that may have been very smart advice, but you're in a different experience, in a new space, in a new place, with different technologies and different things at your fingertips. So you still have to, you can use that as a seed, but you still have to nurture the tree.
Yes, it may not have related to then. And then, I mean, I have a grown son who, it's very rewarding when, 15, 18 years later, they thank you for the tough love. They thank you for, what was horrible at the time to them, And,
well, I always say I teach baby birds to fly, and so fly, you have to fly in my house. So I'm raising you to fly.
We need to do an episode. I'm curious on how you navigate raising children in the digital world.
It's different. It's different, but my kids are very far apart. I have a 21-year-old and a 7-year-old. So.
Okay, I thought you had a girl a little bit older.
No, just old and young.
But seven is right there. Yeah.
7 is right there. 7
yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll do a whole panel thing on that, and we'll get moms from kids of various ages from 7 to 16 or something, 7 to 17, because I'd love to learn about that. Educate parents on that. And unfortunately, so many parents are just on the race wheel, and they're not paying attention. And oh my gosh, you've got to pay attention.
Yeah, it's scary.
Kids today. So let's. Where are we on time? We're doing really good. So the next half of our discussion here, let's talk a little bit about what we did our blip on, and that was, I saw you on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, we need to get hooked up again. This girl knows a lot about business and the legalities of business, real estate, and law. So tell our viewers, what and when should you consider copyright versus trademark, and what are kind of the, I guess, traits or nuances of each one of those?
Yeah, so a trademark is going to protect like a name, a logo, a slogan, but it's going to be a very brief, and the whole point is going to be that it's distinctive enough that you want to protect it from causing confusion from clients that are shopping for something else. So when you say the word Nike, you know that you're getting tennis shoes or sports apparel, but It may be possible to get Nike in a different. Now Nike is a company that's big enough that they've locked down like every category. But all in all, there are 44 categories between products and services that you can trademark a name or a product under. So
what's an example of a category, like tennis shoes? That's one, or
yeah. Tennis shoes is one. Sports apparel might be one. You can have a category for a type of book, or you can, for you're a stager, it may be interior design as a service, right? And so you may be able to get your name trademarked under interior design, but there may be an alternative name for someone who's using it to promote, spiritual books, and that may be distinctive enough and not cause confusion for your clients, so that you both can have a similar trademark under different categories. But again, it comes down to brand confusion. And if someone who's shopping for product A would be confused by you having a similar name in product B.
That's when you have lawsuits, right?
When you have trademark infringement lawsuits. And I just recently saw one from Dairy Queen. If you live down south, Dairy Queen for their blizzards. And there's a company that had a brand called Blizzard Water. And they were able to successfully defend not trademarking, or there was no trademark infringement, because the company's argument is, look, hey, we sell a lot of these waters. No one's confused that this water is a Dairy Queen Blizzard. And because it didn't cause brand confusion or any confusion for the ultimate customers, they were able to keep that name, Blizzard Water. Even though
I would have voted for that too. I think, and tell me if you agree with that, as a business, it can be, to fight a trademark infringement can get pretty costly. So if you're looking to go down that road, research it pretty carefully before you go forward. Would you recommend that?
Research early is really important. I always say, when you are choosing a business name, you need to be thorough. Research the name, see if the domain's available, see if other people are operating under that business, because not just there is a registry for trademarks with the USPTO office, right? US Patent and Trademark Office. You can register a national trademark, and sometimes people are registering trademarks nationally, but international companies can come register an American trademark as well. So you just have to be aware that it may not just be competition that you can see or go to a website and see. It may be internationally registered. So when you're doing that search, if you're getting an LLC, when you're doing a search with your state, you also want to go to the USPTO office and see if there's an existing trademark for that business. I will say I have had clients receive trademark infringement letters and have had to change their whole name, their whole branding, their whole strategy, including very expensive signage at their business, because someone said, you're infringing on my trademark. And the thought of facing $1,000, lawsuits that can easily cost $30,000 or more, right? Wow. Do you want to bet that you haven't infringed on someone's trademark? And so it can be a very difficult decision once you've invested time, energy building a brand, to have to change your name. So that's something you should at least.
So I understand you. We have an LLC, but that's for really all things real estate, and then DBA with the staging and design. But we never.
I think people think though that having an LLC, because they do a name search on an LLC, is protection for that brand name, and it is not.
It's not. Yeah, and that makes sense. That's just protection for your assets, that they can't come after your assets, I guess. They have to.
Yeah, well, registering an LLC, one is state by state, right? And you can do a state trademark if that's the only audience you think you're going to apply to. But it is just a state registry, and you might see, like, I can register Curry Law Firm, but if someone registers Curry Chicken, we can have LLCs. All you need to do is have one name different, or one thing different about that naming, to have it register with the LLC. So it's a much different process, and it really doesn't speak to the brand. Like you said, it does give you some entity protection, so that if someone's trying to sue someone, they sue the business instead of you personally. But other than that, it does not protect the name.
Did I understand you correctly that what you should do, let's say you're going to be having a product or a book that would be global. Would you, now I know, and we haven't talked about copyright, but copyright, to my understanding, once you write something, it's automatically copywritten, and it's already it's copy protected. Let's put it that way. But you can, spend $49 or whatever and have it, or you can do poor man's and send yourself the book. But would you do a global? How would you protect? Excuse me. Say a publication globally. What would you recommend for that? For someone?
Well, that gets notoriously tricky because some countries just don't enforce. Like, obviously there's certain countries that are known for duplicating things. I'm not calling out any country. I'm just saying certain countries are known for a duplication market because
we won't name names, but yeah.
We won't name any names. I'm not getting myself in that trouble. But we know countries that, you can go get a pair of sneakers or a designer outfit in a replication that you probably is maybe the same factory, right?
Yeah.
Because they are notorious for not having the same trademark infringement. And so sometimes that things are just going to go out in the world and you try to stay in your lane to receive the profit or income as best you can. But I think now that we have a lot of American companies being global sellers, Amazon, if you're selling a book, in all likelihood you're on Amazon, Amazon is going to protect their interests as well, because if they're supposed to, get money from the book or the sales of the book, they don't want to see someone word for word write your book and say, oh, now this is my book, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
you have some global
Amazon.
leverage just working with American companies, because a lot of times they have the global reach. You don't necessarily have to have it.
Gotcha. So share with the audience, and I know there's so much deep information. Anyone who needs further legal advice, they can contact your firm. But what are 3 things that you see the most, Eleanor, that require or suggest copywriting, and B, trademarking?
So copywriting, I think is worth, like you said, it's a nominal fee to go ahead and register the copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office. Take the step, right? Because we live in a world of replication. We live in a world where, computers write books. So if you write something unique and you feel like you want to profit from it, or it really speaks to your brand in a very personal way, take the steps and copyright it, because copywriting gives other people notice that it is an original work from you. So I would say if you write a book, I wrote a journal, right? So I copyrighted my journal because I don't want to see someone word for word. You can mimic it, if you will, but you're going to have to add your own little spice, your own little flavor, your own little research and design. But if you just change the cover and slap my book and your name, you're going to get a letter from me, right? So if it's something you want to protect and you don't want to see someone,
because that's your baby,
replicate in its exact form, go ahead and take the step. That may be a script for what you're going to post on your website. That may be a book. That may be website content. That's often what we see people copyright, because then when you see it, yes, you do have the choice on if you're going to reach out about the infringement, but at least you have the choice. And if anybody's used pictures online that they find online and use it on their website, chances are you've received a demand letter from Getty Images or one company that has copyrighted images that says, yeah, you can use it, but it costs money to use it. And if you don't remove it from your site, it's going to cost you this much money. And I know I've received letters. I had a site where I was reposting news during COVID, just legal news, and people reached out and were like, you can't repost us this way.
See, I think I wouldn't have known that. Yeah. I thought they would be happy you're reposting their information as long as you show it as a repost and you're not signing your name to it.
No, it definitely was a repost, but they have ways that you do it, and a lot of times you have to register and give them notice. So
what about blogs? Like, you have a blog on your website. Do you recommend having that copyrighted?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, as long as it's original content, right? So yes. If you're a repurposer, don't try to repurpose or copyright something that somebody's repurposed. I think it just depends on, sometimes when the content for the website is copyrighted for me, but when I post a blog, I'm not going every 10 blogs and filing a copyright, right? Yeah. And I don't care and I don't mind if somebody repurposes it. But a lot of times it just has to do with intention. And if you're doing it to put your name out there, become a resource that people come back to you because they know you have good information, if that's the purpose in and of itself, copywriting may not be a step you need to take. or that you actually want to protect. So I think when we talk about intentional living, if you're a business owner, you have to be just as intentional. Why am I doing this? Is it just a driver of traffic? Is it an information source for my clients? Is it a resource where people can find me on the internet? And then based on how you are positioning it, that will tell you if you need to do some extra steps to protect it.
Gotcha. So like when you see pictures, like sometimes I think on my Instagram, like I'll pull stuff from some of the trades that I use, like of, a nice lamp or, a living room or whatever. So technically I should try to find who did that picture before posting it, right?
Well, that gets dicey because a lot of times the copyright for pictures is with the photographer,
Wow.
and the trade gets a license to post it from the photographer. But that can change, and all of that is kind of like negotiated in business. Is this my picture that you're taking for me? Are you taking it and licensing it back to me? And I think most people have experiences. If you've had a wedding or you hired a photographer, a lot of times they have a disclosure that says, "Hey, this is a license." You may see like a seal that they're the photographer, and if you want that seal released, it may be an extra fee. So I think most people have experienced copywriting, but maybe not been able to put their finger on what is this, why is it happening, and it may not be that impactful to them. They say, I just want to use it for private. But often when you take a picture with photographers, they say this is for personal use. If you try to use it for a business use, then it's my picture and I'm licensing it to you.
Right. Yeah, I
So
think it's just courtesy. Like we stopped doing it because it was too time consuming. But we up till recently we created a 1 minute video from the photographer's photos and created like a slideshow with music and so forth. And I always, as long as they provided me, wanted to give credit to the photographer, because it's their work, and tag them and so forth. So, I mean, it's just you would want the same thing, done for you. So
yeah, it's just,
that's
of course it's
exactly
being courteous, but just understanding that the energy you take to do anything, to create anything, most people want credit if they took energy and put their creative spirit into making something beautiful for you.
yes, absolutely, and that's what they've done. So they should be recognized, and you can help promote their business as well as yours. Um, how are we doing on time? So we've got about 3 minutes here. That's some great information, Eleanor. Uh, I know this is a little off topic, but not in terms of the trademark navigating, pivoting. We talked about. I love your insights on that. Um, as a single mom, how do you? What are a couple of things you could share with our audience? How do you manage, doing all that you do as a professional attorney, having a team, a law firm, and having that little one, at home too?
This is probably going to be the opposite of what people expect, but I would say take care of yourself. And,
I love it.
I would say take the time to do what you need to serve others. You can't pour from an empty cup. So I always advocate to women, especially, hey, take the time to do what you need. If it's 30 minutes in your day, if it's a weekend where you don't have your kids, there's so much guilt that we associate with success. And, yeah, it sounds like a great word, but then if you don't do it right, your kids need something, your spouse needs something, the world needs all these things from us. And we feel a huge amount of guilt when we can't give it. And we carry that.
I think moms were born with like it engraved in their forehead, guilt, because we all have to be some level of a super mom and do it all. We expect it of ourselves. And like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to give to yourself so that you can be more for what's truly, truly matters, which is
yeah. So that was, and then take care of yourself. And then the second thing would be to forgive yourself. The first key of empathy, or how you practice being empathetic, is with yourself. And so if you are always, oh, that doesn't do right, you go to bed feeling guilty and feeling stressed and wake up feeling the same, anxious in the morning, there's a certain level of forgiveness that you haven't extended to yourself. And it's very hard to teach that to your kids and to others if you can't give it to yourself. So you're not perfect. Accept that reality. That is the reality. You're not perfect, and you don't have to be. That's the part that we miss.
Yep, you
And
can
so
wake up
you can
and start anew every day. But I love that, and learning to forgive ourselves really opens up the door, because if we can't forgive ourselves, we're not forgiving other people either.
Yeah.
We're holding on to grudges and things that are in the past. I believe it was Maya Angelou said, forgiveness is a gift to ourselves.
Yeah.
It
And
really
then
is.
you
It
see
doesn't
it
mean
in
you
your
condone.
kids when you
Yep.
don't forgive.
What was that about kids?
I say you unconsciously teach that habit to your kids. So in 20 years, when they're still mad because you didn't give them the toy for Christmas, you realize that instead of giving them the toy, you should have taught them a little more about forgiveness.
They learned it from you. What do they say? Our kids don't learn what we tell them. They learn what they see.
Yeah.
They learn what they see. And great information. A joy and pleasure always to chat with you, Eleanor, and I thank you for sharing. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you and your law firm, what would be the best way to do it?
Sure, they can always check us out on the web, www.theclfirm.com. thecurrylawfirm.com is a great resource, and we have some resources there for people about some of the things we cover in the law firm.
Awesome.
Or they can just reach out, 713-574-2070. And we're happy to help and get them scheduled for a consultation to see kind of where they are and how, we might be impactful for whatever decision or crossroad they're at.
Awesome. I love it. And you're full service. I know you specialize in real estate law, but do you do family law? Do you do pretty much all?
No. We're full service business and real estate. So anything in those life cycles, from when you first buy a property to you're having a fight with your neighbor, to you're wanting to sell your property or get into development. So everything full service on the business and real estate side. So
awesome. For realtors, out there listening,
for realtors,
because I know I've seen posts. Do you know a good real estate lawyer? So I'm going to keep you at the top of my mind for that to refer to folks, because unfortunately things come up. You need to protect yourself. Your clients need to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
Protect yourself from your neighbor. And Eleanor's your gal. Thanks so much, Eleanor. And as always, stay positive, stay hopeful, stay connected, and today especially, stay informed. And I think Eleanor has really given us a nice plate full of information, really solid, wonderful information that we can take action on right away. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and Godspeed. Talk to you soon. Bye, Eleanor.